On to our next characteristics. So next we have symmetry of even and odd functions. So if a function is even, that means that it is symmetrical over the y-axis. If the function is odd, that means it has symmetry about the origin. Which means really that if you rotate 180 degrees, then your function is the same. So let's do some examples that are going to help you make sense of that. So if I draw a line through the y-axis, the first thing I want to check is it the same on either side? If it's the same on either side, then the function is even and we're done. If I do this one, if I draw down the y-axis, I don't get a perfect image. Okay, it's not the exact same. But if I think that I have this section here, if I were to rotate it, would it eventually match up with the new one? If the answer is yes, then this would be odd. Sometimes you're going to have one that y-axis not working, rotation not happening. So is it okay for you to say neither? Absolutely. To do two more examples, you always check the y-axis. This one's the same on either side, which means it's even. While this one, if I were to cut it through the origin or rotate it 180 degrees, it would match up, so that one's odd. Next, we have maximum and minimums. Same thing that we've been talking about with parabolas. Just notice that you could have more than one. Okay, and that's totally okay. These are called local maximums and minimums because while infinity is always going to be your max or your min, these are more precise, so we call them the local maximums and the local minimums. We then have positive and negative intervals. So positive means that it is above the x-axis, which means your y values are positive. So if it's negative, that means it is below the x-axis, which means your y values are negative. And you write these on intervals based off of the domains. All of these descriptions are always off the domains. So if we were to chunk this one up, right, we're splitting it to positive and negative. The first interval would be from here to here. Okay, that is above the x-axis, so that's a positive interval. So it's going to be positive from -2 to -1. Then it switches and now it's below the x-axis, so that would be negative. And it's negative from -1 all the way until you get to 3. And then from 3 to 4, it again is positive, so 3 to 4. Remember that this little u in the center is just your mathematical word for and. Finally, you have determining x and y values. We've already talked about this in the last unit, but just as a recap, if we say f of 3, we're saying x equals 3, so what does y equal? So you go over to your graph and you say x equals 3, so what does y equal? 0. If we say f of x equals 2, we're saying y equals 2, so what does x equal? So we come up here and we say, okay, when y is 2, we've got a point here and a point here. So I actually have two possible x's, one at -1/2 and one at positive 2.5. On the next page here, you'll notice that you are practicing all of those descriptions that we've gone over. So there's 12 things for you to check on every single graph. So please take your time. Do not rush through this. Think about each and everything. Look back in the notes. And then when you're finished, you can start the next video to check your work.